Oh, welcome back. Congressional leaders are looking to pass the $106 billion security supplemental aid package for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan this month. The Senate is expected to bring the package for a vote next week, but Democrats are split on placing conditions on military aid to Israel. Joining me right now is Arkansas Congressman French Hale. He's the vice chairman of the House Financial Services Committee, member of the Foreign Affairs Committee and Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, the chairman of the Subcommittee on Digital Assets, Financial Technology, and Inclusion. All of the things that are happening right now, Congressman. It is great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. I want to get your take on these conditions that your colleagues are talking about with regard to sending money to Israel. What are the conditions?
Well, the conditions on the supplemental package, both in the Senate and in the House, revolve around helping secure America's southwest border. This has been a persistent problem during the entire Biden administration. Open border, millions of people coming in, millions of people in shelters, drugs, fentanyl, trafficking across our border. And Republicans in the Senate and in the House are tired of it. They want the president to do something about it. And so the negotiations are about what should we do on policy and potentially funding to secure the southwest border.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. But I'm talking about the Democrats' conditions. The Democrats are talking about wanting conditions to send money to Israel. We're in the middle of a war here. Jews across America are afraid for their lives. Why are we waiting and sitting on this package? Does Israel need the money now?
Israel needs the money now. You know, this war has been going on for over 2 months now. It's a terrible situation. They need the weapons, the precision weapons that America produces to target carefully what they have to do offensively in Gaza. And they need the defensive weapons against the North and the South rocket attacks. There's no reason for conditions on Israel's defensive aid. This is a long-standing practice that we have with Israel to provide them defensive aid. This is not a new request. This is a request that House Republicans got across the House floor weeks ago. We need to get that money to Israel, and that's why we passed it first.
Well, let me get your take on this reauthorization of Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. It has been both credited with preventing terrorist attacks on U.S. soil and also accused of being a vehicle for spying on Americans. A group of bipartisan lawmakers, some of your colleagues, writing a letter to House Speaker Mike Johnson to vote against reauthorizing FISA. The letter states the privacy of Americans should be of the utmost importance to our government, and yet we have seen too many examples of unchecked, warrantless surveillance of Americans. Congress must work to stop the government from warrantlessly spying on Americans. Congressman, we know what they did during the Russia collusion story, where they completely abused FISA. Where do you stand on this reauthorization?
Well, we are not going to reauthorize FISA without serious reforms that never will allow anything that happened to President Trump to ever happen again, and to ensure we protect Americans' privacy and to make sure that the FISA court has the oversight it should have and that the FBI is completely reformed. So those are all embedded in Republican leadership to reform FISA. But let me say this, we cannot let Section 702 expire. It expires December 31st. That's where we use our technology to listen to telephone metadata for terrorists outside the United States. And it is critical in the face that we face threats from Iran right in this country and others that we not let that expire at December 31. So I've urged the Speaker, you figure out a way to have 702 not let it expire while these reforms are being debated and completed in the House. I'm ready to vote on the reforms because I think they're good and they stop the abuse of FISA and the abuse by the FBI. But I'm also not willing to let FISA expire on its 702 provision.
Yeah, I understand, but there are threats everywhere with this administration, Congressman. You're talking about Iran. What about China? What about Russia? What about all of the surveillance coming onto America and the aggression that we've seen from China? I know you led a panel this week on concerns about China's economic future. The Journal this morning writing, China's economy is, quote, stuck in a vicious cycle. There's no clear escape route. The economy there has been weakening, and yet they continue to be real aggressive against America with regard to surveillance and bullying. And yet we don't do anything about it. In fact, just recently, this week, we were talking about how there was an element within the defense bill about ensuring that companies report investing in Chinese companies, and Patrick McHenry took it out and is blocking that. Why?
Well, McHenry and McCall, Chairman McCall of the Foreign Affairs Committee and Chairman Patrick McHenry of the House Financial Services Committee, neither one of these guys are soft on China. Both of these men support outbound scrutiny over any investments going to China. This is what the debate's about. I think Mr. McHenry and Mr. McCall have a difference of opinion about what the most effective way that is to track it, stop it, and expose it, and make sure that it's approved in the right way before any kind of dual-use technology puts America at risk by funding China. So the debate's about not doing it or not doing it. It's about how to do it. House Republicans and Senate Republicans working with Democrats. We'll get this right, and we'll get a provision that scrutinizes outbound investments going to China.
Well, I mean, we still have companies right now that are in our indexes and that have been sanctioned. So the government of the United States sanctions Chinese companies that are tied to the military of our #1 adversary, and yet American investors are still investing in them and funding the expansion of communist China? Really?
That's why I support the bill that Andy Barr of Kentucky has that uses the Treasury and the Treasury's OFAC list and the Treasury's process, because I think that's a way you will absolutely get international support for American sanction if those companies go on that list to stop outbound investing. I think that's the best way to go about it.
So let's go back to your panel yesterday and the economic story in China and its impact on the U.S. China is talking about their Purchasing Managers Index growing at the fastest pace in years. Things are going well. We look behind the headlines, and that's actually not the case. How do you see it?
Well, the purpose of my conference at CSIS was to pull back the bamboo curtain on the false economic statistics of China and to have a realistic picture about the outlook of China, because this impacts American taxpayers and American business and American defense and American intelligence. We want to make sure we know how China's economy is doing, because we want to know what kind of resources they have to put in defense, intelligence, surveillance, and where they have problems, so that we make more realistic decisions about countering China, both diplomatically, militarily, and commercially. And that's why this is important. But I think their economy is in trouble. I don't think they've invested in their economy. I think they've been making bad loans through the third world with Belt and Road. I think they've been building a military for offensive purposes, and I think that's taking a toll on their economy. And look, they're dependent on an export-led economy, and if they continue to threaten Europe, the United States, our Asian allies like South Korea and Japan, their economy is going to continue to deteriorate as people de-risk.
Let me get your take on your priorities going into year end. I know you've got government funded until January. We seem to be looking at a about face from the House Freedom Caucus now agreeing on the discretionary spending levels from the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Where are you on those spending bills?
Well, the House has done most of its work on appropriations. This extra time, January 19th, February 2nd, is to let the Senate catch up. I think this FRA level that you talked about, the fiscal responsibility spending levels, will let us move forward quickly in January on that and move to FY25 spending. And Speaker Johnson is very clear. We're going to go ahead and mark that to the levels that we talked about, a 1% cap going forward, and get to work in the House sooner on that. And then, Maria, as the new year turns, we need to get our regulatory framework for digital assets in this country so that we can be competitive. And we need to get a farm bill through the House to support our agriculture across the country.
Yeah, thank you for that. I was going to ask you about digital assets. Real quick, so is the priority by year end this money to Israel and Ukraine? Is that what you're working on now for the upcoming week or so, couple of weeks?
I hope we can find a path to get that done before the Christmas holiday.
Yeah.
As of today, I'm not that optimistic about it, frankly, because of the debate in the Senate about it. But that's our chore. We want to provide the funding we need for Israel, #1, Ukraine, and Taiwan, and we want to get that done in the right way with consensus. And that's a big lift between now and Christmas. But we also need to get the NDAA defense authorization bill that you referenced through the House and Senate process and to the President.
All right, we'll be watching all of that. Congressman, thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you,
We'll be watching. French Hill is in D.C. this morning.